Why, good Sunday to you. It's the Sunday Sports Algorithm Podcast. I am your host, Ken Braverman. All we do is read. We just read the sports algorithms. We try to decipher what they are telling us is probably a good pick or which team should win. And we'll talk about four different sports. And I'm also going to talk about other stuff, maybe. We're doing a podcast here. You don't even have to look at the screen. It's a bunch of Microsoft Excel. It's a bunch of numbers and colors that take a lot of concentration. It takes me a lot of time to go through it and read it anyway, let alone if you're just passively watching it on the screen. So just listen. I'll try to make it entertaining. Let's start off with football because, oh my gosh. What did I say about the NFL loving Trevor Lawrence's girly haircut? Yeah, they do. This game, if you're rigging NFL games, let's just assume that NFL games are choreographed. You would have the refs really look like they were helping out the Chargers actually in the first half. They were overruling pass interference calls and stuff that would help Jacksonville. Nothing was helping Jacksonville in the first half. And I did sit and watch this game. I was out watching it with a bunch of other people at a public place, and I was like, wow. I was like, I had Jacksonville. I actually had bet Jacksonville because I was trusting the algorithm. That's all I do now. I don't even think. I just trust the algorithm for the most part. And so I'm like, well, I guess that's gone. Then I was looking at Reddit this morning, and I was on Reddit, and one of the posts on the website Reddit this morning was uh gambler puts Wall Street bets to shame by betting $1.4 million on the Chargers at the end of the first half at minus 12,500 line. So basically, he bet $1.4 million to win 11,000 something was what the net profit would be if you won, because the Chargers were just annihilating it. And sure enough, Trevor Trevor. Trevor just I didn't watch the second half, but I saw the scores passively as I was checking in on it, and I was like, is Jacksonville coming back? I was like, they're down by 14, they're down by 10. I'm like, they just converted a 2-point conversion. It's 30-28. I'm like, are they gonna get the ball back? Yes, they're getting the ball back. I'm like, no way. Then they got down and they ran the clock out and they apparently kicked a field goal to win. And that guy lost $1.4 million. Oh, wow, right? That is a lesson in how not to bet. I have never bet odds like that with any significant amount of money. And that's why you don't, because, hey, halftime in a game, apparently anything can happen. And it did. And the Jaguars win, right? The Jaguars, they win and they advance. And wow. And I had him yesterday. That's funny. The Niners also, if you made your football bets at the end of the first half, you were screwed in the most part, unless you took the underdogs, like I would always recommend. So Jacksonville comes back with the Niners were losing, I believe, like 13. Oh, this is not 31-13. This has got to change. I got to change the score. The score is wrong. It's not 31-13. It was oh yeah, sorry, it was 41-23. I have the final score in here. Let's open it up for a second. For those that are actually looking at the screen. Where's this? Yeah, there it is. 41-23. I mean, just a higher scoring game. San Francisco blew it up late, right? So good for them. So, well, their games today, Sunday. What's going on? If there's games today and there's a game tomorrow. The Monday night game is going to be a lot of fun with Dallas and Tampa Bay. That's going to be very watchable. I will take Dallas because I just want to see Brady lose. I'm just betting for fun here, even though the line's not awful at minus 140. Tampa Bay not impressed me, but let's talk about Sunday because there are three games here on Sunday. So what are we going to do? This is a Sunday podcast, right? Well, it's showing Buffalo on top, but this is talk about an awful line. This is worse than the San Francisco line. By the way, I took San Francisco minus 9.5. I never do that, and I won, but I just trusted the algorithm. So here the algorithm says that Buffalo wins, but they do not necessarily cover 13.5. It's could be just a score and a field goal, or this playoffs. Miami has Tyreek Hill. They've got some explosiveness. What's the weather like in Buffalo? Can't be great, right? So that's why I brought the magnifier down a little bit. I should bring it back up. because it's usually set at 5. I thought there'd be lower scoring games, but let's go back for a second and look at Saturday for a second at that score, because it changes the scores. And I just wanted to check that. There's so much you can do with this. I'm just going to do this video, talk about sports, and be done. Maybe make bets on what I talk about in the video, and then be done for the day. You can see that actually, look at that. If you bring the magnifier up to 5 where it normally is, this score gets a lot closer to where it was for this game, and even closer for the other game. So I'm going to leave the magnifier at 5. Given that I just lowered it because I was like, oh, this playoffs will be more defensive. Don't listen to me. Just leave the magnifier where it is. It's the same game, apparently. So that would up the score a little bit. Now you can see how they actually cover the 13.5. Because if the odds makers are using this algorithm to make the lines, this is what they did. So, but Buffalo's cold, right? I don't know. I'm starting to talk where I don't really have good information. So we'll just go through the games. It does say Buffalo wins, but it's basically unbettable, and that's too many points. So a very, very difficult game here. Is there anything to do as the sports bettor, the sneaky sports bettor? Well, I will say this. Whenever you get a team in the playoffs who doesn't have Tua playing quarterback, they don't have any quarterbacks is the problem. And running back, I think one of the running backs is injured too. They got big. They really probably don't win this game, but they are at a line of plus 650. And given that Buffalo has had weird hiccups throughout the year, they did lose a game at home to the Jets. This is playoffs. A straight bet on Miami to start the day. If they get up by a touchdown or something weird happens, you're going to be able to cash this out in the middle of the game for a great payout, because you're betting at 6.5 to 1. So I can't see a bet on Buffalo being profitable long-term and hitting it all the time. And I can't see it happening with Miami either, but I can't see 1 out every 6 times Miami getting off to a lead in the first half, first quarter even. And if you play the game in that way, then as a live betting cash out option, I kind of think it's a possibility. So that's what I might do in that game. Cincinnati and Baltimore. I'm a fan of Cincinnati. I think the Bengals have a really good team. Says they beat Baltimore. Here your line is also atrocious at minus 435. This Sunday is just, I was looking at all the sports briefly. It's hardly anything to bet in Sundays, all the sports. I'll show you the other ones in a second. But the Bengals are, I mean, what do you do here? I don't know what to do here. It's just too close. Like the odds makers and the algorithm are just too close. Now the Giants in Minnesota is intriguing. It gives the Giants a win by 6 points, and they're an underdog. It doesn't say they would win by win score, meaning like it thinks that overall, if you averaged all the season stats together and did an analysis just on season stats and standings and stuff that we have, that would lead to Minnesota winning, but not with the players playing in the game. So it's almost like you want to go and look, if you care, to go through the projection pivot sheet here and see who's actually playing and why it's liking, or are there injuries on Minnesota or something, right? Like what's going on here? Jefferson's playing, like quarterbacks. Here you got Nick Mullins or Cousins. Mullins actually has a really good rating. And when you bump 2 quarterbacks, Cousins' rating's not that great. Is Mullins playing? I don't know. I haven't been paying attention to football. I really haven't. So anyway, I think the Giants, the algorithm says go for it based on point projections. So I'll probably go for it. All right. So that's football. Now let's go briefly to hockey, because hockey's a short day today. Great day for hockey yesterday. Goes 12-2. Really just teams, like things working out pretty darn well in hockey recently, especially since I've done some work changing goaltender win percentages and including them in the score, and things have hockey's been doing pretty well recently. So today there are 3 games, and you've got Winnipeg over Arizona. Terrible line though. Yeah, but it's because Arizona's not a very good team. Then you've got the Rangers over Montreal, also at a bad. Look at the lines today. Look at this. Terrible. Vancouver, Carolina. So you probably got 3 big favorites winning today at terrible lines. So the parlay is the Rangers, Carolina, and Winnipeg. Could Vancouver pull an upset here? This is the one that they say is the closest. And I don't know, though. Carolina hasn't been playing excellent lately. But they did just win a game yesterday, I think it was. There's a lot of back-to-back games, a lot of favorites supposedly winning, but terrible, terrible runs. Now let's go to NBA. And NBA today, I did see a couple underdogs on here. Got an injury report updated as of pretty early in the morning here, or at least before noon on the East Coast. Well, Knicks supposed to beat the Pistons, an injured Pistons at that, but the line is bad. Kings supposed to beat the Spurs, line is bad. Sixers supposed to beat the injured Lakers, line not that awful. Denver Nuggets, should I go to the Nuggets game today? I've never been to a Denver Nuggets game, that's for sure. I probably will not go today, but we could see. Denver still slightly injured. This line's not worth it all the way down here, though. So that's not bettable. Brooklyn beats OKC. Both teams kind of injured. Line not great. Mavericks underdog on the road against Portland. Portland hurting a little more than the Mavericks. So here you've got an underdog, something like a +6.5 for the Mavericks to win. They're on the road, but it says they win. Bulls beat the Warriors, supposedly also at an underdog line. And then look at this, where the Clippers are really injured at -420 all the way down here. Houston +9.5 is what the algorithm says to play. So the algorithm is saying, Houston +9.5. The Bulls, I guess +4.5, because it's all the way down here. But there's an argument to be made for straight bets on both of these teams, Dallas and Chicago, because of this line. So something like that, it's tough. And scary Nuggets game, unless I go to it. And the Sixers line is pretty good against the Lakers. So I can see about 4 picks on here. Right? Something like that. So that's NBA. Now let's go to college basketball. College basketball had excellent day yesterday. I saw a lot of winning, a lot of home teams winning. I did glance at this before the video because I wanted to be able, because it takes so long to diagnose and like go through every single line of every single game. But if you do that, you start to look for confirmations of good things everywhere, or you identify potential problems in games. And let me explain that because it is valuable to do this. And I think that it's very helpful if you're going to really pay attention and do this. So I was like, well, what's the pick of the day on here? Like, what do you do in these games? And first thing I could see is lines like -775 and -1000 are just unbettable. And you can't, other than bet the other team. And in this case, look at how injured Iona is against Ryder. It's almost like you almost take a chance on Ryder at +500 or something, but you can't really bet this because you end up like that guy who's the Chargers better, who loses all of his money trying to win a very small percentage of it. And that's just not a good long-term strategy. So no matter how likely you think the outcome is. So this stuff's unbettable up here. Now you generally want home teams. Like you don't want to bet away teams. So let's look at just home teams for a second that the algorithm says win. Are any or all of these teams bettable, basically, right? And I said these two are unbettable because of the lines. But now you have Niagara, Xavier, Iowa, and East Carolina. Of these 4, what's good? Well, Niagara at -185 is not that awful of a line for a margin of 14%. And the margin is how much better we think this team is than this team. So Niagara to win's a pretty good pick. Is it the pick of the day? I don't know. It's -185. What about the Xavier game? Xavier at 100% health. Both these all 100% health, except Marquette a little injured. Xavier at home, that's also really good. Because the home teams, you can give them almost a bump. I almost give them a 5 or 10% bump where you refresh this and you bump the home team. And you can see how it changes the margin here. And this is a more accurate look at the actual game because home teams do better. It is just a fact, especially in college basketball. So we'll go back to here. So both of these are actually pretty good. Iowa and Maryland. Now look at Iowa injured. Here, Iowa is only at 84% health. And the line is worse on this game than the other two games that we just had above here. So this is obviously not as good of a pick. And there's an argument to be made that Maryland could win this game because of Iowa's injuries, even though they're on the road. So you definitely don't want to take Iowa down here. And I may take Maryland, but it's not a great pick because Iowa is generally a better team than Maryland. Last game is East Carolina and South Florida. East Carolina is actually injured more, even though that number is not as red. It's because the numbers are colorizing themselves based on this column one at a time. But they're only minus 125, but they are more injured. So both these games are suspect because of injuries. So it's Niagara and Xavier. And oh yeah, one more thing, why Xavier is better. Because I came to the conclusion that Xavier is the pick of the day of all these games. And I was like, well, why do I think that? I was like, oh yeah, this is the raw power of the team. And the power of the team of Xavier is 79%. The higher the power, the better. And so when you see this 79% over, I can't even move the mouse. When you see the 79% right here, right there, that means that Xavier is a much better team than Niagara. Niagara is only a 33% team. So when you think about who's better at winning games when they need to, a team like Xavier is. So even though both these teams are at home and Niagara supposedly playing a weaker Marist is still not as good of a team. So the pick of the day is Xavier. So in summary, with our podcast for the day, after doing all this analysis, and then we'll get on with our day and do something else. I will bet Xavier and pick Xavier, and I'll probably take Niagara, but you really shouldn't on a big parlay around Robin because it's none of these are great. And also, whoops, we didn't even take a look at the away teams. Well, Xavier is the pick of the day. Is there anything else to play here on this side of everything? These lines are not as bad for these away teams, but they're away teams. Away teams do not win as much. However, Quinnipiac's a pretty good team. I've been watching them win some games recently. They're supposed to beat Mount St. Mary's, and Mount St. Mary's is a little bit injured. So this is a pretty solid pick up here at a 24% margin, even though they're on the road. So Quinnipiac, if you're making a big college basketball round robin and betting a lot of stuff, which I'll probably do because we're doing this, but Quinnipiac's on there. What about Memphis? Memphis is super injured, so that makes this more suspect. So I'm going to stay away from that. Siena over an injured Canisius, and I'm not a fan of Canisius. Makes me want to take Siena as well. So you got Quinnipiac, Siena. Here, Michigan's a pretty good team. I'm scared of taking Northwestern on the road. I'm not going to mess with this game. But the algorithm says Northwestern could do it, or Northwestern plus 4.5, because they're healthier, is actually kind of a strong pick. I'm probably not giving them enough credit. Indiana State, Missouri State, close one, but they're on the road, too close. Fairfield's really hurting against St. Peter's. St. Peter's is home, and this margin is low. So St. Peter's probably wins this game. So that St. Peter's is probably a pick as well. And then Ohio State can beat Rutgers, but it's on the road. So St. Peter's, maybe Northwestern plus 4.5, Siena, Quinnipiac, and then you've also got potentially Niagara, but definitely Xavier. And that is college basketball. NBA was these four: Sixers, Mavericks, Bulls, and Rockets plus 9.5. And there's an argument to be made for the Rockets to win because of this injury number on the Clippers. Like, I know the margin is real big here, but when you look at the injuries, Houston can potentially, so it's really plus Houston plus 9.5. Then hockey, it was 3 favorite parlay, which is only going to play about 1-1. So it's like you throw them on a round robin, I guess, but it's still hockey. And I don't recommend taking bad lines in hockey. I mean, it doesn't really have a good over under. Hockey is just extraordinarily tough today. And of course, your football, if you're going to enjoy your Sunday football, then you root for, I'm going to take Miami for fun because this is one of those bets where when you take Miami to win, you just sit back and it's like, all right, well, your life can't get any worse. Like, you already took them at plus 500. Buffalo's supposed to crush them in Buffalo. If everything goes to according to plan, your bet is losing. So fine. So when anything good happens for Miami and they start scoring and they get some crazy thing and they take the lead and you get offered a cash out amount, you're like, oh my gosh, I bet $50. They're offering me $200 right now because Miami's up by a touchdown in the second quarter or something. That might happen. And so in that sense, it's a fun bet. And betting should be fun. And I like seeing Cousins lose, so I'm going to try to root for the Giants. I'm feeling like that's a kiss of death for the Giants here. But the algorithm says they win, so we'll see. And as much as I want to bet this Bengals game, I cannot think of a bet to make because this is too many points and the line is too bad, and I don't want to mess with over-unders. I just want to bet Cincinnati to win, and I guess I could at minus 435. So like a huge round robin. If you have like what are all my picks? Maybe I'll just do that. That's how we'll end the video because I don't want to focus on sports today. I just want to make one big bet with whatever I have, but a bunch of picks, and then try to hit a lot of them. So you can't put Miami on that, but you want to, don't you? That'd be fun. But you can't put Miami on that, but you can't put the Bengals to win. So that'll be the Bengals to win. I'm going to put the Giants +3 on that. I'm actually not going to put the Giants to win because I'm going to try to take +3.5 as an alternate line if it's available. And I'll pay for a worse line for that because I see Minnesota as suspect. And even if they pull one out really late, maybe it's by less than a field goal. So that's two huge picks. I know we're cycling again, but we're going to do it. The NBA one, I'm going to take the Sixers and the Mavericks +6.5 and the Bulls +4.5 because this is a huge round robin. I'm trying to win every single pick. Do I take the Rockets +9.5? That's a lot of points. I'm going to do that also. No, it's just all injury. No, this is too sketchy down here. It's because the margin's bad, and you need to really know what these injuries are, and you need to go through the injury pivot table for the Clippers, which I'm going to do right now just to check. Because the injury report also needs to get updated. There's a lot of game time decision guys, but it's illness. Paul George is out. Luke Kennard is out. Moses Brand is out. There's some weird injuries going on here. It does. I guess I'll throw it on there because I'm adding picks, but we'll see. I'm not going to take Houston to win. The straight bets would be Houston to win, Miami Dolphins to win. Those are the straight bets you take. But on a big round robin where you have to win, I'm probably going to throw it on here because there's just so many injuries going on in the Clippers. It makes it tough for them to win by 10 or more, right? So that's 1, 2, +3, 4. There's 4 NBAs. There's 2 NFLs. Okay, so that's 6. Hockey. Man. Hockey, I'm gonna throw. Wow. I don't know. It's too hard. Hockey's just too hard today. I don't want to. I don't like these lines. Hockey games, I do not like -300 lines. Like that's just unacceptable for a hockey game because it really can go either way. You'll see one of those teams will lose, and I'll be like, you'll be glad you didn't do them all on a parlay. And then the college basketball pick is going to be Xavier, Quinnipiac. What do you do with Siena? It's still too weak on the road. You got to be over a 20% margin to win on the road is my argument with that. So that would be these 3. So Quinnipiac is on there. Quinnipiac, Xavier. And I think we're trimming stuff down. Mando, I want to take St. Peter's because it's injured Fairfield. It's another one. But there was at least like 6 or 7 total, right? So that's kind of the day for sports. Enjoy your Sunday. I'm going to go on and do other work and do nothing but accounting after I make this wager. But I did win a bunch of money yesterday. I won about $1,000 yesterday, actually, because I hit 10 out of 11 college basketball picks on a big round robin. And the one that I lost was the very last one. You want a fun betting story? This was a $38, $39 bet. I think I made $38 bet. But when you hit 10 out of 11, almost 11 out of 11, and you bet a high end round robin where I bet like sevens and tens or of it, like huge combinations of those 11 picks. I didn't bet very much, but it was paying $1,500 to hit all 11. And the FanDuel was giving me an option to cash it out. And they offered me $1,150 cash out. The very last game was Portland State against Cal Baptist or something. I can't remember who it was. That was great. Now, Portland State was playing somebody, and they were up by 12 points in the fourth quarter, and they ended up losing. They ended up losing. I didn't take the cash out. I was gonna, and then I was like, nah, they're up by 12. Like, they'll be fine. And they lost. And so my payout went from a remaining $1,400, and I only got 400. And they're offering me 1,100 something. So that was not paying attention and bad betting decision, because I essentially lost out on $700 by not cashing the thing out when they were way ahead in the fourth quarter, because I was trying to get the extra $300, $400 that I would get if I didn't cash it out early, right? 300 something, 300 or 400. Well, that's a lesson in availabilities of cash outs when you have a really huge bet and you're a huge round robin or parlay, and you've got 10 of your 11 legs completed and you're winning. It's still not a bad idea to take a cash out, because it's so much greater than what happens if you accidentally lose the game. Now, I said I won $1,000 yesterday, and that's not $1,000 because I only got $400 on that bet. And that's true. I won another one where I went 6 out of 7 on a round robin, and I had Jacksonville, of course, in the football game that won, and I had a bunch of other college basketball games. And the only thing I lost on that one was Grand Canyon on the road not winning, even though they came back and covered against Cal Baptist. That was the only one I lost. College basketball had such an amazing day with like 100 games yesterday that it reminded me that when you really do diagnose and analyze what each components of the games are, you start to understand things like, oh, Fairfield's not really a good pick because they're injured on the road. Like, Xavier is a really good team and a reasonable line. Like, you start to see these things and you just get surprised less. And to be an educated wagerer, you can do that. And I know there are a lot of us that like to do that. It becomes too much for me to really get into this all the time. So I like just doing this in the morning and getting it out of the way, and then passively watching stuff. It's much healthier for me. And so it results in less gambling and more fun at night, or everything loses. All those things I just said, they all lose, and you're done halfway through the day. Like, one football game's over, and like the Minnesota beats the Giants or something like that, and you're basically knocked out. You're not going to be making money on your bets, and you completely focus on something else and don't even worry about it. I think that's kind of the way to do it, is to play it like a lottery in that sense. But you can also focus on the games and live bet them all the time and take advantage of fluctuations in lines. Like, when you're watching if you're watching college basketball today or something, and these teams go down, especially these home teams, they fall behind at any point in the game, and you start to get favorable lines on them. Like, what if Xavier falls behind by 10 in the first quarter or something, like first half? Then you bet the heck out of them. That's what you do, because it's a long-term prediction in a sport like basketball where a lot of points end up being created. So, all right, that's an extensive podcast video, guys. I'm getting watch hours. We're trying to win some games, trying to have some fun. Good luck on Sunday. Enjoy everything. Am I going to predict an upset of the day to leave you with? Because make it an NFL one. It doesn't look like it's going to be Baltimore. It looks like it could be the Giants. And is there any reason it could be the Dolphins? Not really. So that's the one I'm going to say wins. All right. Good luck, everyone. May all your picks be winning.